With players like Tyler Smith and Kyle Filipowski on the board in the second round, many Bulls fans had hope that the Bulls could find a way to get into the second round and draft one of these talented bigs. However, they do not, but they do find a way to sign undrafted free agent Marcus Domask. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, apparently, the Chicago Bulls are shopping Nikola Vucevic. I know that's something a lot of Bulls fans are going to be excited about. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. My name is Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. So the Chicago Bulls do what they've done in the last couple of drafts, and that's sign an undrafted free agent. This time, they signed out of Illinois Marcus Domask to a Exhibit 10 deal. Now, this is a contract that could end up turning into nothing, right? I want to be clear here. A lot of players that are signed to Exhibit 10 deals, really nothing materializes from it. Kofi Coburn, for example, a couple of years ago was signed to Exhibit 10 deal. We've never seen him in the NBA. I don't even think he's played a game in the G League. But considering that the Chicago Bulls have recently been trying their best to use their G League affiliate to try to do some developing of players, they get a 6'6" guard/forward out of Illinois in Marcus Domask to this team. And like I said, signing an Exhibit 10 deal, which could end up being an actual deal, or it could end up being maybe it can convert to a two-way contract or eventually a G League deal. So we'll see what happens there and if the Bulls end up actually holding on to him for a long time. But at the end of the day, Domask is somebody who transferred to Illinois. He played in SIU the season before that. He was a 5-year senior when it came down to it. He was denied an extra year of eligibility in the NCAA season. That is kind of what it comes down to. And more than likely, this is going to be him being signed to as an affiliate player, meaning that the goal is probably going to be him ultimately getting a G League contract with the Chicago Bulls. And this is somebody who I don't know if I have a whole hell of a lot of, of hope for. He can convert to either a two-way contract before the season, which will lock him in with a bonus, which is kind of person to doing this, or it could just end up turning into the Bulls having his G League rights. That's basically what an Exhibit 10 deal does. It allows the Bulls to take a look at him. They can retain his rights for him to be on a G League contract, or they could convert it to a two-way contract. And considering how close the Bulls are right now to the luxury tax, there could be a possibility of him turning into a two-way contract and maybe them converting a Henry Drell or a Adama Sanogo to a full NBA deal to create that space for him. But when you look at him, over the course of his collegiate career, playing in 143 games over 5 years, 5 years that he played in college, he averaged 15.4 points per game on 45% shooting and 34% shooting from three-point range, taking a little over 4 three-pointers a game in his collegiate career. He also averaged 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, a half a block, and 0.7 steals per game in that time. Not great numbers. He's also 24 years old, so of course an older player, and it was always going to be a slim chance of him being drafted. And last year was actually his worst year shooting three from college. He shot the ball 29.7%. He was above 30% every year prior to that. So maybe that means with a better competition, playing in a D1 school, that he wasn't able to get off that three as naturally as what he was when he played in SIU. But, that remains to be seen. Averaged over 5 rebounds per game every year except his sophomore year. That was 4.5. So he's been really consistent, basically, what he's offered each and every year being about the same. 13 points per game freshman, 16.3 as a sophomore, 15.1 as a junior. Then I guess with his 2 senior years, 16.7 and 15.9. Very consistent there. The level of upside that you see in a kid like this, I don't know if I see it there. We'll see. But the Bulls do what they've done the last couple of years. You look at Justin Lewis as an undrafted rookie that they signed it. Adama Sanogo was the same thing. The Bulls always kind of take a look at one of the undrafted free agents, especially even when they don't have a second-round pick. And we'll see. There are some other, undrafted players. PJ Hall was one that I had hoped that the Bulls were going to take a look at. They ultimately don't. That's fine. And we'll see what comes of this. But then also yesterday, around draft time, we did get an update from Matt Moore from the Action Network saying this. The Bulls are known to be looking to move Nikola Vucevic along with the never-ending Zach LaVine saga. Dallas Carew trades both helps and hurts those efforts because Caruso's contract was a quality lubricant, which is so weird of a phrase to say, for teams willing to take on those contracts, which now isn't available. A lot of Bulls fans are hoping that the Bulls can find a way to move off Nikola Vucevic. Now, I have said this, that Vooch still offers right now the best chance at a starting center for the Chicago Bulls. And even with the Bulls going younger, you still want a center in there that could start with them. That's why the Clint Capella rumors kind of made sense. If the Bulls were to move Vooch, maybe you get Clint back in as part of a 3-team trade to kind of facilitate that. You still have a starting level center. Maybe Adama Sanogo becomes the backup at that point. And maybe that is still something that's out there. The Atlanta Hawks, who a lot of teams expected to be willing and dealing, haven't really done too much of that yet. That could wait to the opening of free agency. But hearing that the Bulls are openly shopping Nikola Vucevic, I think says that maybe they have some hopes of maybe even targeting a center in free agency. Now, right now, the Bulls don't have a lot of spending power in free agency. But if they're able to move Zach LaVine to a team that's at least able to absorb a portion of his contract in the cap space and match the rest, and they don't re-sign DeMar DeRozan, the Bulls actually could use their full mid-level exception at that point to maybe chase an Isaiah Hartenstein or something like that. Now, I don't know if that player, if Hartenstein would accept that type of contract from the Chicago Bulls, because I think he can eventually get more. But, it gives the Bulls a little bit of flexibility if that's what they decide to do. Signing trades are also an opportunity with DeMar DeRozan possibly going somewhere else. So there's a lot of things still up in air about the Bulls and this new direction that they seem to be going on. But we got to see the fruition of all of that. Meaning, still got to see what's going on with Zach LaVine. Basically, all the core three, Zach, DeMar, Vooch. Still waiting on what the future of those guys are this upcoming season with the Bulls. And as we get a little bit more clarity on that, it can kind of make more sense on what they're going to do with Nikola Vucevic. So a lot of options there. Vooch averaging 18 points, 10.5 rebounds last season. I know he's kind of been, because when you watch the games, we've seen how much Vooch has struggled at times, right? How much he's hurt the team at times with trying to be a heavy three-point shooting big. But right now, especially if DeMar does go away, I think that kind of opens up Vooch to go more to his natural spots in the mid-range, high post area. And then maybe we can see the best of it. Or what it seems like the Bulls are doing, willing to go younger, maybe even take a step back in that case. Maybe they are searching for teams that be willing to take on Nikola Vucevic's contract and see what they can do at that point. So the Bulls are still willing and dealing. And this is that offseason of change that AK talked about. Still seems like it is actually happening. We just got to see what now is happening with the core three, maybe even Lonzo Ball. And those decisions are really going to determine just how much the Chicago Bulls are trying to stay competitive next season, or how much we are going into truly a new phase of embracing the youth movement that it seems like the path we're going down. But let me know what you guys think on all that down below. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. That's thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.